I'd like to call the Germantown School District Personnel Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. I'll start with roll call. Ms. Higginbotham.
Here.
Mr. Pollack.
Here.
Mr. Brown, that's me, present. Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Make
Move.
a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. And we move right to reports and updates. And we'll turn this over to Mr.
Gotta
Cass.
approve the minutes.
Did we, minutes, I apologize. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve the August 5th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
There's the first and the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. And now we go to reports and updates. And we'll start with item 5A, teacher resignations. I don't believe we have any.
Nope, we don't have any, but like last time, I'm always gonna make sure that's included, whether it's that or the contracts, just so it's on there. Always wanna make sure it's out there for people to see. So no resignations.
Very good. Then we'll move right to item B, teacher contracts.
Yep, so one teacher contract we'll be bringing forth is Kyle. So Kyle is gonna be taking on the special education teaching position. That was a vacancy, the resignation from Nick Ford, who never worked in our district, was hired to work in our district, but ended up leaving education because the drive was super far. He found another opportunity outside of education. So we were able to get Kyle, who's gonna be taking over that position. So he's been teaching for, I believe, 11 years in West Bend. So he's gonna be coming over to us.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's
And that's
one
a
of, what, 3 or 4 this year?
From West Bend? Yes, I'm learning that West Bend is a place that we tap into, so.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
And that seems like a fairly quick turnaround for that position, seeing as we had an applicant,
Yep,
didn't
so
work out, and within, you've been here since July 1st.
I've been here since July 1st. Yeah, and with these ones, I mean, we take a more proactive approach. So we'll reach out to people based off of weekend, who's searching, they might not have applied. So we'll reach out to all those people that have updated their weekend account and start actively approaching people that way. So that's how we were able to get Kyle.
Great, great proactive. All right, we'll move to item C, which is staffing update.
Yes, staffing update. So once again, this is here historically. We're going to continue to have this throughout the year. The first part of here is just updating you on some of those certified staff positions we're still looking to hire. So we do have a special education position at Kennedy Middle School. Those minutes are all being met. We're able to meet it within the capacity there. However, it was that vacancy that we had, so we're still actively pursuing to fill that role. So they did have, I believe, 2 or 3 additional candidates apply. So they were working through that interview process late last week. So we'll see kind of where they're at with that position.
When was that vacancy originally?
That one's been there
Was
since,
that the one for about a year and a half, 2 years ago?
That I don't know if I would have to look on that one. I'm not
We
completely sure.
outsourced a year ago, but I don't believe it's the same position.
Yeah, there was an outsource. We do have the option to go through different recruiting outsourcing platforms. We just want to be mindful of the quality that we're bringing in. So
As well as cost
Yep.
prohibitive.
Yep. So we're exploring currently the candidates that recently applied. So.
Because wasn't there a
We
teacher that
we used
shortly
an
before the
outside
start of the year?
outsourced contracted employee, but we had to change
Yep.
employees throughout the year based on quality of employment
Yep.
employees. So to Dr. Castro's point, though it's an easy fix, it's not always best for kids.
Got it.
So that's one vacancy out there, and the other vacancy is English language learner teacher. It's actually now multilingual language teacher,
No
ESL.
acronym.
Yep. So yeah, no acronyms. I got it. So what we did is we had a Spanish vacancy at the high school, but we had a teacher who was teaching the ESL or ELL position, English language learner, at the high school, middle school. They're certified to teach Spanish. That one, we moved them into that position because we can, once again, meet these minutes in creative ways right now. But currently, that's a posting that we have because we moved that person from that ML position English language learner, to the Spanish position. Because that one we had full classes, we needed to make sure that we had those covered.
Great.
So, another thing you won't see on there, but I'll just update it, was historically there was a part-time music position that was on there. After I kind of dove further into the actual minutes that we have for all of our elementary music sections, we actually would need 3.04 FTE. So it's actually not a part-time position. What it was a .04 position, which is basically 60 minutes that we would need. You're not gonna find anybody to do 60 minutes. Hence the reason why we offer overloads as well. So we have one of our elementary music teachers covering that additional 60 minutes through an overload. So I wanted to make sure I correct that because it was always out there as a part-time. And last year it might have been part-time because I do believe we had some reductions in sections across the whole. But after I went through it, what we actually need was 3.04 FTE for that. So it wasn't like a full position or even a part-time position. So I just wanted to make sure I referenced that.
Great.
'Cause that was out there for quite a while. Any questions about those three? All right, I'll continue on. This next part is actually something I'm pretty excited about. It's obviously our special education assistants. And as I mentioned last time, this is gonna be a spot that we're gonna put some intentional monitoring around because this is a position, it's not just a Germantown thing. This is a position where these you see turnover more often than you would like. Literally my wife's school, they lost all 4 of their special education assistants the week before school. So it's not like it's a historical thing in districts all over. So we want to put some intentionality behind monitoring it. But what I'm excited about is we were able to find a number of quality candidates. I believe we had 13, 14 unfilled last time we were here, and I said next time I come, I'm going to make sure you guys have a nice update. So I wanted to make sure you guys see that. We do have 2 vacancies, one at the high school and one at KMS. We're actively currently interviewing for those. So any questions about that one?
So we went from 14 empties to
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
2 empties?
Two empties. Yeah. And as I said, I was going to make sure I gave you that update during this one. So our principals have really actively pursued that too, and they've been very intentional about those hires as well. So I was very pleased with those.
Very good.
Yep. The next one under admin assistant. So as you recall, Ramona moved into the principal admin position, which created her vacancy. Jill, who used to serve as a special education assistant, has now moved into that attendance secretary position. So that was previously a vacancy, but now is filled as well. The next 2 hires here are 2 hires that we're really excited about. The first one is our manager of communication and marketing. That's Justin Marion. His official start date will be, and because he's under professional technical, that doesn't go through that same process for approval because it's a different category. He will start on September 8th. I am super excited about this hire. So he was working out in Fond du Lac as one of their directors, and he's been driving all the way out there. He lives in this area, but we're bringing him in. His communication is solid. He loves being at all the sports. He really wants to tell our story, not just from like the student lens, but even our staff lens. Like, why here? Why Germantown? So I feel like that's going to be a really powerful avenue for us as a district. So I'm excited to get him in. So anything else about Justin?
No, I think he comes from a district that's bigger than us, 17 schools. Again, to Dr. Castro's point, he lives local. Dr. Castro, myself, and Melissa, part of the interviews with him. He's engaged already with our local sports teams with some coaching, reffing, those type of things, and he wants to be here. And to your point, he wants to tell our story, and we're excited from coming from a really big district to a right-sized district, in my point of view, to take his skill set and make us even better from a communication proactively standpoint and engage our community, which is our 4th strategic goal, is community engagement. So
Yep.
we want him to start yesterday, but he'll
Yeah.
start on the 8th.
Yeah, he'll start on the 8th. So
We're excited. I'll sit down with all of you as board members or have him here to a committee meeting or a full board meeting early on to talk about the work he's going to do and the strategic goals we have and the actions he'll take. But we're very excited. He came highly recommended.
Yep.
Highly recommended from internal staff that knows him and external people that Dr. Castro and I both know in education.
So any questions about him? Like that's a
Can't wait to get them started.
it's a game changer pickup for us, in
Yeah.
all honesty. So we're pumped about that one. The next one is our Dean of Students, Ben. So Ben comes to us from Mequon. He has 12 years of experience at the middle school level. This position, as you guys know, we've seen people in that role move into that administration role eventually. So when you're interviewing for this role, you try to keep that in mind as well. Who has that potential to continue to grow as a leader? Because I mean that is a leadership role within your school. So we're excited about Ben. He brings that understanding of the middle school student in serving in middle school for the past 11, 12 years. So it'll be fun to watch him step into that role and grow. He also served as his middle school's athletic director role. So obviously that interaction with parents, that interaction with student athletes, working through challenges, whatever that may be, he already has that experience. So now it's just helping him continue to build that and continue to grow. So another one we're excited about as
Great.
well.
Yeah, and many of you met him today.
I was gonna say,
right?
most of us met
Yeah.
him today at
Yep.
the tour. He joined us on that, and
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be an exciting one to watch too as he continues to grow as a
Yeah.
leader.
good.
So, and then the last one there is that vacancy that we had for maintenance. That is still an active one as well that they have out there. So one we're working towards filling.
All right. That's all for informational purposes, so
Yep.
we'll move on.
All right.
And we'll go down to item D, and this is something that I mentioned with you the other week and said maybe it'd be a good idea if we mapped
Yeah.
out a timeline and
Yep,
whenever.
absolutely. So we wanted to make sure that we provide a timeline of that MacArthur hiring process for the principal. We felt like that was important for you guys to hear what was that process, because ultimately this wasn't just you had a resignation, 2 days later you hire someone. That's not how this works. We're very thoughtful in that process. Really, this process started back on August 8th when the MacArthur families were notified that Mr. Gonzalez was not going to be returning as the principal of MacArthur. That's when that put into motion our work to start looking and searching for that next principal. So on August 8th, that message went out to families. We posted that afternoon or that evening onto WeCan. So the position was posted on August 8th. So that's one of the first, that's the starting point of that timeline. From there, on August 13th, we did send out a survey to families and staff, and that's really asking them just for some of that engagement. What are some of those attributes that you are looking for in your next principal? That was the exact same survey that we sent out to Amy Bell and County Line families. So we didn't change it, we used the same one that we used. And then in addition, in there, you ask families and staff who would like to be a part of the process. So we gather information from families. That was on August 13th. On August 15th is when we conducted screeners of 5 candidates. Now, between August 8th and August 15th, you're on WeCan watching every single candidate, reviewing every single candidate as it's coming through. I think what's important to note is we had 46 applicants. Out of those 46 applicants, 33 of them came to us with some form of administrative experience. Principal, associate principal, interim principal, dean of student type role, right? Leadership responsibilities. 33 of them came to us with that type of experience. The national average that you're usually getting for a pool, I actually was looking this up today, is anywhere between 12 and 25 candidates. So for us to pull 46 candidates, that's a quality pool. Like it,
Given
like,
the timeline of
Yep,
year.
given the timeline. I mean, I am thoroughly impressed with what that pool brought us. So that was exciting. I think what people have to keep in mind is you let the pool kind of drive the process. So if you get a quality pool as it's unfolding, your timeline can be much tighter as well, right? Because you don't want to wait too long and then candidates are looking elsewhere. So that was just something I wanted to point out as well. So we're screening them as they're coming through. We ended up selecting 5 candidates that Dr. Reuter and myself did a screening interview with. So that was on August 15th. It was a half hour for each candidate, screened each of them. And then from there, we selected 4 candidates that would be coming to our in-person interview on the 21st. So with that, I think something really important to note is when you bring forth those candidates in front of your community, your school community, and your staff, you're bringing forth people that you have confidence in, that depending on how it turns out, you feel pretty confident about actually every single candidate. Because you're not going to bring forth candidates in front of the community that you're like, nope, just bringing them to fill a spot. So the intention is bring forth quality candidates. We felt 4 out of the 5 are quality, so we bring forth 4 out of the 5. If you felt 2 out of the 5 are quality, you bring forth the 2. So you really let the pool and the quality of candidates drive that process. So that was on the 21st, but I do want to backstep just a tad to August 17th. August 17th was when I contacted those 4 candidates to let them know that we would be bringing them into the final interview. So that was Sunday, August 17th, or it might have been Saturday, I just don't remember what was the 17th. I called all 4 candidates, and that's when we tell them, hey, we're bringing you forth for the final round. You're going to have a community task. You're going to have an academic task. So from the community task, it was really focused on the survey, where they had to develop a 30, 60, 90-day plan to address the 3 top attributes that that community, those families, said were important. The 3 top priorities that they mentioned was prioritizing creating a safe and nurturing environment for students. So 85.8% of those that participated in the survey from families, so that was a top priority. It was strong communicator with parents, staff, and students. 79.6% of those that participated said that was important to them. And then the third one was focus on academic achievement, with 61.9% of the families saying that was important to them. So those 3 tasks or attributes were what the candidates had to present their 30, 60, 90-day plan around. So I notified the candidates of that. And then the academic task was to take the state report card and really analyze it and develop your process of what are going to be your goals, what are your action steps, and how are you going to collaborate with your team to move the needle in those given areas that you've identified. So our 4 candidates were provided with that those tasks for the 21st. I think another important piece to note is when we asked staff and families who wanted to participate, we really focused it on a random sample of those that put their name forth, right? I mean, to be honest, I'm in a great position. I don't know the families, I don't know the staff as well, so randomly selecting them, so it gives you, it's not biased in who you're necessarily selecting, is probably the best route to go with that, and that's why we chose that. The only place that we actually actively chose 2 people from was from the PTA, because we wanted to have that representation as well, but we ended up having 7 families represented, so 7 parents, and then in addition we had staff as well. So I just wanted to make note of that because that was all part of that process. Any questions of that yet? Because I still have a little bit more to go.
I have a question. When it comes to the survey that was sent out to the parents, and you had to rank the characteristics.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all positive characteristics.
They're all, yeah.
But did you go through the responses then and pick people that may have ranked one higher than the other and intentionally
Nope.
done it that way to get a cross-section?
No, I wanted it to be truly a random, unbiased selection of who those were putting forth. I mean, there's different ways of doing it, right?
Yeah.
You could choose to go that way, but I felt with this, it was best to go random and really leave it out there for people to have a opportunity to be participating based off of that random selection.
So we had 113 MacArthur families respond,
Oh, that's great.
just so you're aware.
Good.
Absolutely. So obviously the 17th is when we notified the candidates. August 18th, so that would have been Monday, is when I notified the interview committee members that they were selected. And then from there, they were given the instructions of what the 21st was going to be. Part of this process too is none of the committee members prior to the interview know who was selected. I think that's really important not to do that, because if they know who's part of the interview right away, they might start talking right away and all those type of things, and you want to really protect the integrity of the process, hence the reason why they were notified, but they didn't know who else was part of that. Another important piece of this is we don't share the resumes and those pieces with the committee members until they're actually there at the interview. That's another important piece, because 1, you don't want them to start looking people up and those type of things. On top of that, if one of them had to drop out, they now had access to these people, and you don't want that, once again, for the integrity of your process. So they were all notified on August 18th. So then we came to August 21st, the day of the interview. The actual interview was structured where there were 2 rooms. So they had a community room, and then there was a room of staff. They had the performance task. So in the community room, they did the community performance task. In the staff room, they did the academic analysis of the state report card. In both rooms, they had 10 minutes of an introduction of self. So who am I? Why MacArthur? Those type of things. Then they was followed by a 15-minute of their performance task, presentation of their performance task. And then 35 minutes, give or take, of Q&A. All of our questions were based off of scenarios. So we had a scenario that followed a question. We felt like that was really important because scenarios are going to tell you pretty much what people have done and are capable of doing. A lot of times with just your standard question, they may be able to answer the question, but really getting into those scenarios, you can kind of get a feel of do they know the work intimately and well enough that they can come in here and we can feel confident about them. So we did those two sections, or those two interview panels. We had our 4 candidates. 2 were at 9 o'clock, 2 were at 11 o'clock. And then after, we spent time debriefing in each of our rooms. When you debrief, you focus on the strengths and then any other unanswered questions or wonderings you may have about any of the candidates. So I facilitated the community room, and then Jake facilitated the teacher room. And the job of the facilitator is really just to facilitate, go through each candidate, make sure all voices have the equal opportunity to be heard. So we did that plus, or that strengths and wonderings. Those wonderings are really helpful because that gives us then the opportunity that when we call the candidates, we're going to ask them those wonderings because those are still unanswered questions that we want answers to, and we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So we had the strengths and wonderings, and then at the very end, each committee member was provided with a sheet of paper. No names were put on it. The candidates were listed, and they were simply asked to rank, as an individual, rank the candidates. So each individual ranked the candidates. You don't write your own name on there, so there's no way of knowing who actually wrote what. So at the end, I collected all those, I tallied them all up, and that then really starts driving kind of that next step. Because once again, you bring forth candidates that you believe, based off of how the process is unfolding, you feel confident in all of them, right? Like you're not gonna bring forth people that you don't feel confident with. So we did that, we tallied them up, and then from August 21st to August 24th, so that would have been that day of through that following Monday, you start following up with candidates, getting answers to the wonderings, and you start engaging in some of those reference checks. So we did that from the 21st to the 24th. And then on the 24th to the 26th is when we started to, at that point we knew who our top candidate was. Obviously it was Dr. Barrett. We reviewed the offer and we kind of went through that with him during that course. With then on the 26th, Dr. Reuter, myself, and Jake met and then did another round of conversations, right? Because once again, we want to make sure that we hire the most quality candidate, and we want to make sure that we're having those conversations so we know it's the person that we want. So we did that with that person, or with Dr. Barron at that time. And then on the 26th is when we reviewed the offer. It was then brought forth to you guys on the 28th as the recommendation, with the 29th being then an optional meet and greet with the MacArthur staff.
Dr. Barrett
yeah.
tendered his resignation to his previous district on what date, Dr. Castro?
He tendered it to them, so the night of the resignation, or the night of the board that it was approved, he tendered it effective when the first day of school would be. So essentially for today was his first day. Because I think it's important to note too that there was no point in time in which he was under 2 different contracts. And there was no point in time in which his previous district did not know the timeline. I spoke directly with his district administrator. She knew, so obviously I was doing the reference checks. I did that on the 24th. Dr. Reuter spoke to her as well, so she knew when we were going, bringing it forth to the board. They actually had a closed session on last week, Friday. So we had ours for that approval on the 28th.
Thursday, the night before.
Yep, the night before. They had theirs scheduled for the 29th. So Dr. Barrett, they also paid for his tuition when he was going through his program, so there was a financial agreement they had to work out. Unfortunately, the numbers were inaccurate, which then resulted in them needing to hold another meeting to go through those numbers again and present that new financial separation agreement for yesterday. So there was some confusion out there as well that they weren't aware of the timeline. I just want to clear that real quickly and just say they had that meeting on the Friday. There were some inaccuracies on what he actually owed them for that tuition piece. Those were corrected yesterday. He submitted or signed off on that yesterday, which then allowed him to start obviously today. With the intention for us was always for him, obviously as soon as possible, but knowing that kids were coming today, we wanted him here. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
So from our standpoint, we followed proper protocol
Yep.
as far as
We
Yep.
did nothing
Notifications.
against state
Nope.
statute. We did
I'm
nothing,
sorry.
we did nothing against state statute.
and this, yeah, and there's different statutes for teachers versus.
Yeah, so
Correct.
the
So there's-
state statute for teachers is 118.22, and that's basically around their contracts. Statute 118.24 is for administrators. But yeah, we were right in line with that, because he started on the 2nd, and his would have been wrapped up last Friday, right? That would have worked well, but those numbers were inaccurate on their part and they had to correct it, which is why they had to meet yesterday. So,
Got it. Any questions on that, guys?
Yeah, any
No,
questions?
it's pretty clear.
There's a lot of
I just,
timelines there.
thank you, Dr. Castro. It's a pretty extensive process, depth of process, thought out. And as many of you were there this morning, we saw Dr. Barrett at MacArthur and crossover with Mrs. Krolik. She provided him, I talked to Steve last night, and he said, wow, the crossover plan I got from Alejandra Krolik yesterday
Yeah.
was more than I expected.
Yeah.
So we're thankful to her in the interim for 2.5+ weeks to make sure that the operations of the building were in place, but also then now she's able to hand off not only a document, but she's gonna be there all week. We discussed today as directors and district administration our support this week, but we're very confident in Dr. Barron with his background in elementary education, both suburban and urban education, to take over MacArthur and lead that staff and those students and that community forward for this district.
It's just a quick question. I mean, this process, for the most part, has been in place for several years. I mean, there might be
It
tweaks
mirrors
along the
our
way.
other elementary hires,
Yeah.
identically.
Well, I think,
Well, we just
Even
went
my
over
own
last
yeah.
year.
Is
You went to
Mr.
Big Blue
Viziak's
Bay.
as well.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I want to go back to how important it is that the quality of your pool is going to drive the timeline of your process.
Yep.
The more quality candidates you have in a process early on, you're not going to wait extra long to go after those candidates. You're going to start that process, and when you believe you have a quality pool and you want to bring forth those candidates for that next round, you do it.
So, yeah, and to that point, before this meeting, I was on a phone call with our state executive director for the State Administration Council, discussing some of our work around our strategic planning this year, and he was asking about our updates with, do we have a new principal? Obviously saw local media, understood what was going on, and I explained that we had a candidate pool of 46 and pretty much walked through what Dr. Castro walked through, and he went, whoa, you had 46 applicants this time of year? And I said, yeah, and we had multiple people we screened, as well as people we brought in that we were high quality people that he knew as well, that people wanna come and work here administratively in Germantown. So, not only is the process sound in my opinion, and Dr. Castro did a great job leading that out, but also people wanna work here. You met with Dr. Barron's. He made it very clear why he wants to work in Germantown, lead MacArthur forward.
Do we know, as far as like other districts, is that rare that we would bring in community members to
Yep.
interview, or is that common
Yep,
practice?
yeah, you
for-
typically bring in, some community members from that school, right? Whether it's, some choose to just do it through their, PTO or PTA. Some choose to open up to their full community. Some will be more intentionally like, hey, I want someone who has a younger student, but also had someone who's now in middle school. So, yeah, you always bring in, some form of that community member, cause it's an important piece of that as well.
I think of the, what did we have, 7, 8 parents?
Yep.
Of that degree of them, we had parents who are very early on to parents who have 5th grade students, right? And that span, that's important,
Yeah.
especially diversity of moms, dads,
Yep.
all of those type of things.
Yeah, and just for number wise, we had, so 5, there's 7 parents altogether, 2 from the PTO, so then you would have 5, 2. We had 9 MacArthur staff representing it. The interview team, we had 3 principals there, the directors were there, Dr. Reuter, and then Mr. Brown as well. So
As
that
well
was,
as elementary principal team.
Yep,
Yep.
all three of them were there as well.
And we had 41 staff respond to the staff survey.
And that's not mandated by the state, that is still
Nope.
up to the,
Yep.
to the schools
Yeah.
to do that or not
That's
to
our
do that,
process
to keep
we've
it an open.
implored. Yep.
Yeah, and then we'll probably spend some time, I do think it's always important, obviously, the whole idea of continuous improvement is analyzing or reviewing your process to say, hey, what can we adjust, how can we continue to improve, as well throughout the process. We got great feedback from all of our candidates. Another important piece, even though this is the after piece of it, I sat down, or I gave the opportunity to sit down with each of those candidates that we didn't go forth with, where we actually had a virtual meeting where I could give them some feedback based off of our process or what we saw. They were all extremely thankful for that, because it's very rare that you go through the process and actually hear genuine feedback, because we want them to grow too, right? We don't want them to just go through our process and be, all right, I didn't get it. We want them to know that we saw something in them. Here's some feedback that you can take back. So we
And
try
they
to
may
be really
apply again.
intentional.
We had one of our finalists, this is her second time through.
Mhm.
She came back, she wanted to work here.
Yep.
She didn't make it, but,
Yep.
yeah, and we've seen that with previous administration we've hired. Their second time around, they were hired. So, it tells you something about the district.
And like I said, by all means, we're always going to be looking at and look for opportunities to improve. So, I mean, we'll continue to make those adjustments as we continue to move forward with any interview process that we have. And as you guys know, last time I mentioned, the interview process is something that we're going to be spending time on reviewing anyways. So,
Great. As far as the timeline goes, I have in my notes, and I may have this wrong, July 24th.
yeah. So July 24th was actually the day in which Mr. Gonzalez was placed on administrative leave. So that was the date in which that occurred. But none of the actual interview process for the
Or
interview
posting.
or posting, yeah, none of that actually took effect until August 8th. So, but the 24th was when Mr. Gonzalez went on administrative leave, or was placed on administrative leave. So, and then
Got
at
it.
that point, we kind of worked through the process as it unfolded.
Very good.
So, yeah.
Any questions? Mr. Loth?
Yeah, this is, I think, our first big hire with Dr. Castro as our HR person.
I know, hey?
And, yeah, I wanna thank you for this evening's, information you presented here. You did an excellent job at explaining what all went on here. And, I haven't been involved in that many hirings myself, a few, but, I don't think I necessarily remembered what all went on in that process, so thank you for presenting
Yeah.
that this evening.
Yeah.
And also, anyone that's watching in the community, if they have any doubts about the principal we just hired, I think everything you just went through shows that we didn't just hire some
Yeah.
guy off the street. You know, he's highly qualified
Oh,
for
yeah.
the position.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
I appreciate
yeah,
that.
thank you for your work and your explanation and all that you went through to hire a new principal for our district.
Yep, absolutely, appreciate that.
Yep.
One other thing I wanted to make note of, I forgot to reference it, is on the 21st, when we pulled the committee members together as well, they were all required to fill out a confidentiality agreement. Once again, I take a whole lot of pride in making sure that we have integrity in our process. So we went through that. They were all given the option that if they felt like that wouldn't be something they can hold true to, they were given the option to be able to exit if they felt like they needed to. I was very, very impressed with all the committee members that they kept it really objective, right? Their focus was making sure that they were objective throughout that process. But that was something we added as well, was that confidentiality agreement. That's not just for this one though. You guys will learn that in our hiring process, now that I'm overseeing it. That's always gonna be part of it, because we need to have that integrity to the hiring process for those candidates that have interviewed as well. So that was another thing added.
That was my third administrative interview process. And it is robust, it is confidential, you guys do a great job with that system. I've been in corporate America for over 35 years, and I haven't seen a hiring system like that, so congratulations, that's
Thank you, Eric.
good work.
Thank you, appreciate
you.
that.
Any further questions? Mr. Ewert, President Ewert.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions about the process. So
Yep.
you've spoken to that the process, that the pool drives kind of the process.
Yep.
We had a significant pool from all from the information you're providing us, I think it's stronger than any of our other prior
Mhm.
hiring pools, which is very interesting to me. I do think it speaks a lot about the district and the state that's in, especially given the circumstances this was under, and we had that much attraction from people. But let's talk about some what ifs. And I don't like to do that, but I want to just because
All right, yeah,
you explained,
Yep.
right, the pool drives it.
Yep.
So let's say the pool wasn't robust.
yes. If the pool wasn't robust, based off of the timing of the school year, you always consider at the same time, a interim for a full year as well, so that you can get to a point where the pool will potentially be deeper. Obviously, we didn't run in that situation, so simultaneously, you also explore that. Through our associations, there are a long list of former administrators that are willing to step into administrative positions to fill as well. So had the pool may not have been as robust, we would have potentially considered that, which we had once again, another strong candidate. You're kind of analyzing that simultaneously, because it's not just about bringing someone in. We're not gonna just bring in someone who's willing to be an interim for 1 year. We're gonna go through those people as well. So you kind of simultaneously do that if the pool's not developing the way you would want. And then obviously you go from there. But that just kind of depends. That's more so because of the timing of the year. So that was an option had we needed it, but the
But
pool was strong enough.
it was more than an option, you were actually
Yep.
executing Plan B behind the scenes.
Oh,
just in
absolutely.
case
Yep.
After
Yep.
August 8th.
While from a confidentiality standpoint, I
Yep.
can't share what that was. I was very confident in the person that we were actively pursuing as well. So, and it's intentional, right? And once again, it's not just about the experience, it's also looking through what is some of the experience that they have. So we're doing a lot of work around our professional learning communities. So you're analyzing them as well from that lens. So every step we're taking is intentional, because at the end of the day, we want to put the best leader in front of our staff, ultimately for our students. So, yeah, it's literally happening simultaneously behind the scenes. So.
So that's two balls that were up in the air.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, the third ball that drove this whole scenario was, were we gonna have a hearing? Did we end up having a resignation?
Yeah.
What all took place there? Did any of this process, not interact, but influence any of that process?
Yeah, I mean, considering the timeline of that, we could have, it was basically, that was kind of dictating when you could actually post, when we made a decision of, when we announced he was no longer gonna be coming back as the principal of MacArthur, because our contracts are written as such, right? It's that time in which we can make those moves. So as that was dragging out, yes, it pushes it up longer. We could have done it early or late July, early August. So it could have been pushed up even earlier.
Yeah, I'm looking more from an influence standpoint. Obviously, we never went to a hearing. That opportunity was taken away from the community with the resignation to provide transparency around that side of it.
On the 25th.
I think our communication that went out to families was very clear that at the time, the employee was still an employee of this district, but would not be returning as principal. Therefore, that set in action item D tonight, the principal hiring timeline. So that was a separate issue, a different timeline, but we knew we needed to move forward with securing a high-quality leader at that building for the first day of school, as in today.
Yeah, I think I look at it as parallel tracks, though, right? 'Cause
Sure.
this board never was given an opportunity to make a decision and hear all sides of that story. And that could have, had that occurred,
Yes.
that could have driven an alternate
It
outcome.
could have, however, to Mr. Castro's point, language in any administrator contract states, with the exception of the superintendent, that they can be reassigned to any administrative position. Administratively, our recommendation to you was we're moving forward with a principal hiring timeline, and said employee will not be in that position. That does not mean that had the board chose to, if the employee chose to have a hearing and had been found that their contract was not terminated, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have a job here. It just wouldn't have been in this timeline.
Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to nail down here is there's a narrative that this process was driving that process.
Not at all.
That this process started before that process was engaged. And I think what we're explaining to people is that's absolutely the opposite scenario that took place here.
Correct.
That process took place, and then this hiring process was engaged.
In a way, it's kind of good that the perception is like that, because the person involved remained an employee until August 26th.
Mhm.
And as long as you're an employee of this district, you can be confident that due process and privacy matters will be fully engaged.
Yeah.
So that person, you're an employee until the 26th, you're on.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just, if I could just, you had mentioned that 30, 60, 90-day plan and the characteristics that they had
Yep.
valued. Could
Yep.
you just out of curiosity, because it's just interesting what people value depending on what they know versus, now if you have a different administration in there, like, would those change? So I just was kind of curious what those percentages were again. You had like
The
a
ones that I
safe and-
mentioned?
Yep,
Yep.
start with the safe and
So
nurturing.
the prioritization of creating a safe and nurturing environment for students, 85.8% of
Mhm.
those that participated
Yep.
said that was a top
Of the
action group.
114.
Yep, of the 114. The second one was that you're a strong communicator with parents, staff, and students, and that was 79.6%. And the third one was a focus on academic achievement for all students, and that was at 61.9%.
Which I just find interesting when we're a school and we're not, and our lowest
Right.
priority
But with
is.
and you think about though,
academic.
parents send their kids every day, just
Yep.
like I do. I wanna make sure they're safe, right?
Of course,
Yep.
it's
And
just
I-
interesting
Yeah,
to me.
and how it breaks down. And one of the things we heard from the family group or the community group was they're all important. Because you can't do
Correct,
one
yeah.
without the other,
Yeah.
right? If you have to rank, okay,
Right.
right now I'm ranking this, but they're all mutually exclusive. And I think that's what made Mr. Barron's presentation and the presentation he did with you guys to the top was, he didn't talk about those in isolation.
Mm-mm.
That was
Right.
the work, right? That's the work.
Yep.
Any further questions?
Any other what ifs?
Yeah, I keep going back to, you said the process.
Yep.
In the end, it sounds like a consensus came out.
Oh, yeah, consensus came out. So when we did that, so after we did the debrief, interviews happened, we did the debrief with the strengths and wonderings. Everybody had that opportunity to rank the 4 candidates. I collected those. I tallied all of them, so it was brought out. So collectively, the group had Steve as the highest one even from there, right? Like that was just how it unfolded naturally. Once again, you bring forth candidates that how it shakes out, what they can bring to the table. You feel confident in all the people you're bringing forth. You don't bring forth people just to bring forth. I will never bring forth candidates that I don't believe would be able to meet that standard of what our families expect and deserve, what our students expect and deserve, what our staff expects and deserve. So yeah, I mean, it was crystal clear with that. There was no question about it.
Not to mention, there's always gonna be, people that, well, I like this person better than that
Mhm.
person, they didn't get picked. Part of that too is the background checks and reference
Yep.
checks. Not only who they put on paper, but who
Yep.
we know work in other districts to really ask the questions, those wonderings.
Yep.
As well as, Dr. Castro's put in place a standard reference check form regardless of your employment group. So those things start to bleed out too. Okay, there's candidate 1 and 2 and they're kinda close, but this person rose up because, whoa, we have red flags for this person based on their reference checks as well.
And that played out after the panel
Correct, so
discussions.
Dr. Castro, as he
So,
said,
once
you took
tallied
it,
that
compiled the
up,
data, him and I sat down, looked
you
at
sit down
everything.
again, you vetted again.
We got the feedback from the instructional group that Jake and Katie led to get their voice, looked at their feedback, and that led us on a path of, okay, let's look into these candidates.
Yep.
And obviously, Dr. Parent rose to the top of those candidates.
Yep.
So beyond Mr. Brown's participation on the interview panels on the 21st, what was the board's role?
Yeah, I was there. So we called a closed session on, I don't have that date in front of me, that was last week Thursday. and Dr. Barron came and he met with all of you in closed session for one final round of interviews. Though obviously Mr. Brown knew him from the interview process, I spoke to the whole process that Dr. Castro shared. Mr. Brown shared his perspectives on the interview process, and then each of you spent over an hour asking him questions about his leadership capabilities and his vision for MacArthur, as well as the most important question, why Germantown? And I believe based on how he answered those questions, based on the process that was outlined, the information you received prior, as well as in that meeting, it was a unanimous vote to approve him that evening.
And that all took place in closed, obviously.
Correct, because as a confidential personal matter, but the vote to approve him took place in open, which it should for contract employment, just like we've done with every other administrator under my supervision as superintendent and this current board.
Thank you.
And it's standard practice in any other school district in the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
All right, we will move on to item 6, unfinished business. We do not have any. Item 7 is new business, and we do not have any of that tonight, so we'll move on to a motion for number 8.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And with that, the Personnel Committee meeting is adjourned at 6:16 PM. Thank you.